Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Today, we're going to talk to you about the process of submitting your title order. Normally, here at the office, we will help you before you submit a title order while you're negotiating your contracts. If you need a quote, if you want to know what your closing costs will be, we can send you a written quote. We're working on an app currently to where you can get the figures yourself. But anytime you have a contract and you want to know what the closing costs are going to be, we will send you a written quote before closing if needed. Also, we want you to know that we meet any fees. We match any fees that you get and lower fees from another title company. So the process is pretty simple. As soon as you have a fully executed contract, all I need you to do is email me your contract. Once I receive your fully executed contract, we will, the same day we receive the contract, if it's before 4 o'clock, send you a confirmation of receipt of your contract along with your file number, with all the contact information for the office of who's going to be processing your file. Normally, right now in the office, we have Isabel that will intake your order. Then she'll pass the file on to Nicole to process the file. Then Ginger will get the file for closing, and I will get the file once it's ready to close for funding. That's pretty much the process, but anytime you call the office, you can speak to any of us, and any of us can help you answer any questions on your file if one is not available. So once we receive your contract, what ends up happening is we'll send you a commission verification form along with buyers and sellers information sheet. Those are important because we've had discrepancies where the agent's commission is different on the MLS than what's given to us at closing. So we want to make sure that you receive the correct agreed commission and there's no mistake on what you're getting paid at closing. So that is the purpose of, and it's important for you to complete that form and send it back to us. Also, sometimes you negotiate with your client on the $4.99 fee. I know some of the agents assume it or waive it, and we don't know what that agreement is. So if you send it to us on that form, then we'll have the correct numbers to work up at the closing table. Then after we receive those documents, the same day we receive contract, you don't have to worry about anything that has to do with title. The same day we receive the contract, we will order your title commitments. We will order lien searches. We will order any estoppels. And if it's a single family home, we will order the survey. So all of that will be taken care of. Even if the inspection period is still not expired, we don't want to delay, especially with associations lately. The associations have been taking a while to process the condo approvals and the applications because they're short-staffed and delayed. So we don't hold up ordering anything for closing. So we want to make sure that we are ready to close as per the contract dates. We'd rather have everything ready and wait for the closing date than have the closing date and not be ready. And we do a washout agreement with our vendors. So it's not a problem for us to go ahead and order all of your items, so you know that we will close on time. We won't have a delay because title doesn't have the estoppel, or title doesn't have a payoff, or title doesn't have a lien search. The lien searches take, I want you to keep in mind that the lien searches take 10 business days for most cities. So even if you have a cash deal that you want to close within a week, we need to wait 10 business days minimum to obtain the lien search from the city. And that's pretty much what takes the longest time. Although, like I mentioned, the associations are taking a pretty long time lately with approvals, issuing approvals, or the president is not there, especially when they're owner-owned associations. So keep those things in mind when you're setting up your closing date on your contract. Then another thing, once we receive everything back, if there is items on title or open permits, we will send you a copy and notify you that there's an open permit that needs to be closed before closing. We will tell you if there is something on the title commitment that's out of the norm, that's not a payoff, if it's any type of violations. Sometimes in Miami-Dade and Broward, since we have so many common names, There are items, there's a lot of items that might come up on title, such as like a judgment that might not necessarily be for your clients. We do the due diligence to verify with the social securities and the addresses. That's why we ask you for the information sheets, so that we can see if that is your client or not. If it's not your client, we just simply do an affidavit of closing stating that we verified that information and it's not one and the same person. So that's the purpose. Sometimes I know you guys don't understand why we ask for so much information or why we need the information sheets completed. And that's the purpose of why we need to have the information sheets completed. It'll save you time and it'll save us time, because if something like that comes about, we're able to verify with the information sheet you provided, as opposed to calling everyone to verify socials and addresses and everything of that sort. Once we're ready to close, obviously, if there's a lender involved, we have to wait for the lender. Once we get the lender's approval and figures, and another thing I want to mention is most lenders still do not give us figures any sooner than the day of, if we're lucky, the day before closing. So once we get the figures, we have to work up our the fees and match it with the lender. Once we match that with the lender, then we're able to disclose the amount of the closing disclosure to the clients and tell them what they need to bring for closing. I know sometimes your clients are like, we're closing tomorrow and we don't know what we're bringing. It's not because we want to delay your client or we don't want to give them the information. It's because we most likely do not have the package from the lender. So once we have the package from the lender, and another thing I want to mention is your lender cannot give us a package for closing until they've done the disclosure, the 3-day disclosure. By law, they have to send figures or the proposed figures to your clients 3 days before closing. And then they're able to give us a package for closing. So if you know your client has not been disclosed with the CD by your lender, most likely the file is not ready to close yet. You might need an extension, and normally if you stay in touch with your client will let you know whether they'll send them the CD, because they don't copy us on it and they don't copy the agents. They send it directly to the borrower. So by that point, you will know whether we're on track for closing or not. Once we receive the closing package, we'll coordinate with all parties. Right now, due to COVID, it is still a lot of things are still being handled remotely. We, for one, try to keep the minimum people in the office. We always want the person who is signing to come to the office and not bring additional family members, as in the past, they would bring the whole family and it wasn't a problem. We try to keep it to a minimum now, just, out of courtesy to everyone in the office, not to have so many people in the office at once. Another thing that we're still doing is remote online notary. The remote online notary is still being approved by our underwriters on a case-by-case situation, and it's mostly for clients that are out of the country, or they can be out of state. It's easier when they are a U.S. citizen or a resident. We don't have to go through a lot of approval process because they can go through the actual platform directly. When they're foreign nationals, we have to do it a little different, because that platform requires you to answer security questions that they don't have. If they don't have, which is credit history or where you've lived, the same information they ask you normally when you apply for like a credit card or a loan. And if they're a foreign national, they wouldn't be able to pass those questions because they haven't lived here. So we have to do the process through a different state, and we can do it. So if you have clients in Venezuela or, Colombia, we can close your client. We just have to get it approved from our underwriter with an affidavit of someone personally knowing that person. So you have to make sure you, as the agent, you personally know that person is who they say they are, because we have to try to avoid fraud. There's been a lot of fraud with this also. People take advantage of anything that gets approved to make people's life easier. They take advantage, and then, they'll not allow us to do it anymore. And that's the case that's happening a lot. There's a lot of fraud with this. So the underwriters require that somebody be on the video conference call. We do the closing just like a Zoom call, like we're doing right now, with your client. They'll show the passports, and we just need somebody to be on the Zoom with us and the client that personally knows the client and can sign an affidavit to attest that that person is who they say they are. So that's the only requirement to close a foreign national, which I think is pretty reasonable, especially now that it's still with the airlines and all the delays. It's hard for people to make it here for closing, especially from a foreign country. Also, we send you wire instructions. The minute we get, or you can call us, or the minute we get your contract, we'll send you wire information, and we're sending it to you encrypted so that you can forward to your client, or we send it directly to your client. Also, because wire fraud, it's a big issue in our industry. All title companies are, obviously targeted for wire fraud. So sometimes I know you guys tell me, why did you send me that encrypted? We're not trying to make your life difficult. We are doing it for our own protection, your protection, and your client's protection. I recommend as agents to call us and have us send your client the wire instructions directly, because it bypasses usually the agent's emails are more targeted for wire fraud, because they know that you're working with buyers. And they can intercept your email easier than they can for us as a title company. So if you need me to wire funds or send wire instructions to your clients to wire funds, call me and I can send it directly to your client encrypted, and it will give you less liability of being the person who sent the wire instructions to your clients. Then once we get all of that clear, we have title clear, we're ready to close. Like I said, we can coordinate the remote online notary. We can send a notary anywhere in the US to your clients. If your client is in New York, we can coordinate a notary to go meet with your clients, so you don't have to worry about that. We'll make those arrangements and make sure that we make the closing happen and we get everything signed for closing. Once we get the originals back, the only thing is when it's a mail, we have to consider we have to wait on the originals to get back for funding. So once we have all originals, most of the times we need to get funding approval from our lenders. So once we get the funding approvals from the lenders, which most of them require for us to scan the executed package back to them, and sometimes they won't even send us their funding, the wire for funding, until they have that package. So once we get all of that settled and we have funding, you guys will get an email from me stating, hey, we've closed your file. Here is your HUD or ALTA. And the confirmation on the wire that the seller has been paid. The sellers received the wire. So at that moment, you can make arrangements to issue keys. We normally don't hold keys. It's usually between the agents. So that email will give you confirmation that the seller has been paid and that you can get the keys for your clients. And then once all of that is done, we will record. We use Simplify, which is an online recording system. In the old days, we would have to send a courier to the courthouse. Now we don't have to do that. We do the Simplify recordings. And for Broward County and Palm Beach County, normally we get the recordings back the same day. Miami-Dade is a little delayed. Miami-Dade takes 3 to 4 business days, but it's still quicker than having to send it over physically. So once we get that recording, we'll request your policy, and the policies normally take 30 days to issue, to be issued. Once we issue the policies, we'll send the original recorded deed to your client along with their title insurance policy, so that they have a copy of the policy, the title insurance, and the recorded documents. We do provide a copy of the title at closing. It's just not recorded. So once all of that is done, pretty much on our end, we are done with the file. We keep your file in our system for 7 years. By law, we have to keep copies for 7 years. However, we cannot give copies to any party other than the actual parties involved. So let's say you need us to send you a copy of your client's policy, then we need your client to give us the authorization to send that over to you. Or if you, I know a lot of you work with foreign clients, and the clients want us to mail you your policy or the original documents. We have no problem doing that, as long as they tell us that that is okay. They can send us an email letting us know, please send my policy to my agents or to this address, and we will do that process. So pretty much it's pretty simple. On the first page of the contract, as long as you put broker side on escrow as the escrow agent, you can use our contact here at the office. You can use my email, which is Margaret at Brokers Title and Escrow. then we will work. And if you resend us a contract and you don't get a confirmation that day, that means we did not receive your contract. Because in every single file, we will send you a notification that, hey, we've received your file. We've ordered everything on your file. This is your file number. This is your closer. This is your processor and my contact if you have any questions. So if you don't receive an email like that, most likely we did not get your email. We are updating our websites because I know maybe, I'm not sure what email. Sometimes the agents have told me, oh, I found an email on the website. The email is up to date on the website, but I'm not sure sometimes where you're getting the emails from. You can always call the office to verify the information, and always encourage your clients to call the office also to verify wiring instructions. That's a big thing, and I want you guys to emphasize on that. It's very important that they call before they send a wire. They can call us, and any of us can verify the wire instructions with them. That way they know that they're sending it to the right account and there's not an issue with your client's wire. Because they always think, obviously, that they'll blame the title company, and sometimes they'll even blame you as an agent. So it's very important that you encourage them to call. I know some clients go directly to the bank. I've had clients send money directly to our bank without me knowing that they've done a deposit. And also another thing that a lot of the clients do is ACH deposits. We cannot, we have to have track of all the funds we receive. So underwriting does not allow us to receive ACH deposits. We can receive for escrow deposits, we can receive personal checks, cashier's checks, or wires. For closing, we can only accept wires because cashier's checks can be stopped within 24 hours. So that will delay the funding. So in order for us to fund and finalize the closing, we need to have a wire at the time of closing. So make sure you let your clients know. And it states it on our wire instructions. A lot of people don't read it. Please do not do ACH transfer. I just had one recently that they did an ACH transfer, and it took a week for us to receive the funds. So they had to send funds twice and wait for us to refund them the other one. So it just causes delays. So if you just make it clear to your client, hey, for closing, the funds need to be certified, and the only way you can do it is a wire, then the closing will be smooth. We'll be able to fund, everybody will be happy, and we'll be able to get keys on time. Another thing we try to do also, a lot of clients don't like to make the time for closing. So let's say we're scheduled to close on Friday. Your client will tell us, I can only come in at 5 o'clock on Friday. We have no problem closing your client at 5 o'clock on a Friday, but keep in mind that it's going to be a whole weekend without them getting their keys. They can't expect to close at 5 o'clock on Friday and get keys at closing, because by 5 o'clock, we can no longer do wires. Most likely the lender will not give us funding authorization by that time. So we can accommodate your clients and you as much as you like, but obviously keeping those things in mind, I don't want you to be upset that we close at 5 and then we tell you we can't fund until Monday, and there's a whole weekend that your client didn't have access to the property. We work with you as a team. I just keep in mind that we are on your team. So we are going to do everything possible to make you look like rock stars. So we make sure that our side is done because you're referring your client to us. And we want to make sure that we don't delay the closing and that nothing on our end gets delayed. But keep in mind that we have to clear title, and the things that we ask you for, we ask you, send you an email asking you for something, it's because we need it for a reason. At this point, I don't know. I pretty much told you the whole process. I don't know if you guys want to open up for questions. If you have any specific questions in regards to closing or anything that you don't understand that you would like to ask.
Hey, Margaret, how are you?
Hi,
Hey, how are you,
Ricardo.
Ricardo?
I have like 8 questions,
Okay, that's good.
Oh my goodness.
but they are very simple. Like you can say yes, no, or none of the above.
Or we could just remove him from
No,
Zoom.
I'll
You can
answer them.
just-
I like y'all answer
Yes.
them.
Our first question: when the client received the disclosure from the lender,
Mhm.
after or the client confirms the disclosure and they have 3 days, right after that, is it clear to close?
Normally, they have a clear to close, yes, after they just closed, because they cannot clear the file, or they can't say we're closing tomorrow. They haven't done that disclosure to their clients.
Okay, and
I
after
actually
the
have a question in regards to that because
oh, now you have a
Margaret and I just went through it with Claudia Laverde, the friend of mine, who literally had 5 disclosures sent to title company, and they were yet not clear to close. Like, and title was running numbers like crazy. You know, like they would run the numbers, send it, and it was just one of those. We're seeing if we are gonna get ready. We're being ahead of time and seeing if we can close. And then it ended up being that loan got denied, and then it was a different loan.
It happens
So
to
I
me
don't
too.
want you guys to feel that just because you guys got a loan disclosure that you guys are cleared.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the lenders, and I'm saying that is by law what the lenders are supposed to be doing. It doesn't necessarily mean they're doing it. A lot of lenders are, sometimes they'll do the disclosure the same day, and as long as the client acknowledges it online, they'll send us the documents. But I know for a fact, until they have that acknowledgement from the lender side, they cannot give us a package. And there still could be changes. It's not supposed to. The whole purpose of a CD disclosure is for it to be the final numbers and not to be any changes. But I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing that still the day of, we're making changes of items that the lender is requiring. And ultimately, we have to obviously do what the lender requires, because they're the ones in control of issuing the documents for us to close and obviously doing the loan. If we don't do what they're asking us to do, then they won't give us a package for closing. So I know sometimes it might seem like it's that, we as a title company get blamed for everything, and I don't mind taking the blame, but most of the times, I would say 80% of the times, it has to do with a delay on the lender's side. And we just have to, obviously, we work as a team. Our goal is not to bash any lenders. We just go with it and we try to make the best of it. But I know sometimes you guys get frustrated. Hey, we're supposed to be closing. The contract date is tomorrow. Do I need to get an extension? And just keep in mind that seriously, 90% of those times you need to get an extension has nothing to do with title and all to do with your loan.
And you're being very nice with that 90%, because I always say 99% of the times it's never title.
Yeah. Ricardo, what other questions did you have?
So after you receive the clear to close with the package from the lender, how long do you need to prepare the documents so we can
Listen, we do our best to jump on those figures the minute we get them. The moment we get them, we work up the figures and send it back to the lender, because it might take them a while to review it and give us approval. So, I would say that it wouldn't be more than an hour after we get the figures that we work it up and send it back to the lender. We turn around right away when we get the figures, so that we can get approval and a package to schedule the closing time.
Okay.
And then that's another thing. We try not to schedule the closing until we have a package, because just because we have a CD doesn't mean I have the closing package. Once the CD is approved is when we get the package. So I don't want to tell your client, hey, come to the office at 9 in the morning and I don't have a package, and then I have your client sitting here waiting on a package. So we schedule the time once we have the actual package from the lender.
Another question, what happens when the HOA takes more than 30 days to issue an approval?
It's completely out of our control, the lender and our control. So at that point, the seller has to understand that the delay is really on the seller's side, because the association is taking longer, and most sellers would know that, because they know how their associations work. And if, there's nobody there, if they're working limited hours, if they're short staffed, most owners already know that. So there's nothing else we can do at that point but get an extension. We cannot close without an association approval, because it's a big liability if those people never get approved for us to close with an approval. That means the association is not allowing them to live there. And now they have a loan on a property they can't live in. So we don't close. We will not even schedule closing until we have the approval from the association.
And for how long does a sample letter work? Like, what is the length of the sample letter? Because
30
sometimes
days.
30 days.
Almost the estoppels, the lien searches, they're usually good for 30 days. If we need to verify, we'll call and update the information, but it's obviously easier to just call and get an update and have already a base number to work with and to wait for a new one. So the updates are pretty fast to obtain. At least we have the majority. Let's say your client is closing tomorrow and their association was payment was withdrawn today. We can collect for it on the HUD and not disperse it, and your client can just simply send us proof that they paid it, and we'll refund your client, as opposed to delaying the closing because there's not an estoppel. But they all of them are usually good for 30 days.
Okay.
These searches, estoppels, 30 days. After 30 days, we want to verify, obviously, if there's anything due, because today the estoppel can say there's no water due. And within 30 days, there's a new bill and it could be $200. So we try to update everything before closing.
How many days would you recommend to put in the contract for single families and for condos? Like, how many days do you need for each type of file?
Well, single families could be the same as a condo if there's an association. Just because it's a single family doesn't mean there's no
let's say there is no association, just single
So
family.
if there is an association, I definitely recommend putting 30 days. And again, if there's a lender involved, I would say 45 days. Because the lenders, you usually need more time than the association and then we do. If it's a cash deal, and you know the association is pretty quick, they're pretty on board, and they can get us an approval quick enough, we can do it within 10 days. All I need is 10 days for the lien search that takes the longest.
Mhm.
Okay. Last question. Why sometimes we receive the HUD and why sometimes we receive the ALTA?
Okay, the HUD we only use when it's a cash deal. On cash deals, there's no ALTA because there's no lender. The ALTA is a lender requirement, which the ALTA is the same form as the closing disclosure, but with limited information. On the closing disclosure, your borrower will have the interest rate, loan amounts, and payments. That information does not concern the seller. So we give them what is called an ALTA, which is the same version, the same numbers, just without all that extra information that doesn't need to be disclosed. So when there's a lender involved, it's always an ALTA and a CD. When it's a cash deal, there's no lender, so we don't have to do an ALTA. We do a HUD like we used to do before the changes. We just do a regular HUD. A lot of private lenders also don't require an ALTA. They require old HUD. And that is the difference, pretty much. If it's a cash deal, you get a HUD. If there's a lender involved, we have to do a closing disclosure and an ALTA.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody else have questions?
Hi,
Come on,
do you have
guys.
a
This is your
question?
chance to ask any closing questions.
No, everything very clear. Very nice. Thank you so much.
No,
I'm
you're
good as well.
Okay, perfect. And again, if there's anything you can think of that maybe you forgot to ask now, we're always available. You can always call me and Andreina. Normally, Andreina handles the sites with contracts, you know, and your documents. And when anything that has to do with closing, you can call the office. If you call me and I'm not available, you can ask any of the girls on the team and they'll be able to answer your question. Sometimes I'm in a closing, and if I don't answer, I will get back to you. So you can always just leave me a message.
And I do believe that we make an
Margaret.
amazing team, like between myself and Margaret and Ginger, like, you know, between Brokers LLC and Brokers Title, we make an amazing team. And there's times that you guys will ask me things and I'll run and ask the title company. So I do believe you guys do get that extra added control on your files. So if you guys do have any questions and for any reason you don't want to reach out to title just yet for anything, you can always, you know, use me as a filter.
Margaret.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah.
Also one more thing that I noticed the other day. Regretfully, I've been working much more with sellers.
Mhm.
And normally, you know that the buyer is the one who chooses the closing company. So sometimes they don't know because they don't choose
so
to.
if you guys are putting in Miami-Dade Broward, that means that the buyer can have their own person and pay for their own things, and the seller can choose their closing agent and pay for their own things. So just because the buyer's saying, hey, I want to use this escrow company and this title company to close me, you could still use Brokers Title to represent the seller.
No, yes, I understand that. But the point that I was going to is that I like that the other one I asked you for the estimate, because one of my clients asked me for an estimate of how much it will be. And that's really good because they want to know before, more or less, how much would be the numbers. So that's good. That's good. That was really good.
We also, with the numbers, we just don't do generic numbers. We actually, when you ask me, I always ask you for the address, just because we actually go in the property appraiser's office. We look up who the owner is, we look up the taxes, and we use those numbers on the estimate we send you. We just don't send you a generic estimate that we send everybody. We do it personalized to the property.
Yeah, I realized. Thank you. Yes.
Very nice. Does anybody have any other questions or anything you guys want Margaret to, touch up on before we conclude today's?
Another thing I want to mention. Oh, go ahead.
No, one last question. You talked about earlier in the Zoom about the commission has some, then the MLS says something and then the contract says another thing. Which one prevails?
Okay, I want you guys to keep in mind that us as a title company, we don't go on the MLS to verify what you agreed on. We don't even have access to the MLS. We're not realtors.
We have no access to the MLS.
So you might think that, oh, the title company knows it's a 3% because it's on the MLS. I don't know it's a 3% because I don't check the MLS. So I need you to give it to me in writing. And we've had instances where the MLS will say, oh, it's a 3%, and then the broker tries to pay a 2.5%. And I don't want that to be a dispute, and I don't want you to get the wrong commission. I want you to get what was agreed upon at closing. So that's why we send you that form. And I know sometimes it's a pain to fill out because it's just extra information, but we do it to protect your own commission, to verify that, the other agent and you are getting the commission that was agreed on at the time of closing, and that after we close, when there's nothing we can do once we've closed and funded, there's no backup to get the right amount on your commission. So that's why we do that form, to make sure that you get the commission agreed. So if you give me in writing 3%, the other agent tells me, no, it's a 2.5, we'll make you aware of it so that it can be clarified before we close.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's just to protect your commission, to make sure you get paid what you were agreed on, when you agreed on your listing agreement.
Thank you.
And another thing also that I wanted to mention, I kind of lost my train of thought what I was going to say with that, but it was very important. Give me a minute to remember. There was something else very important I wanted to mention to you guys about the closing. Completely lost my train of thought. Oh, yes. If you guys have any classes, right now there's a lot of changes with the contract. I know Andreina's doing the classes, but if you need, and we also set classes to make sure you get your credits that you need, so you don't have to go to the board or do anything outside of the company if you don't wish. We schedule classes for you to get credits, but if there's any topic, let's say you guys want to do a class on lease searches you're not understanding, or if you want to do a class on the contracts that you need, extra assurance on, just let us know. We can schedule those classes for you. You give us enough time and we'll go ahead and schedule whatever you need help with, because we obviously want you to be as educated as possible on any topic that you need help on.
Awesome. Thank you.
Very nice. All right.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you. Yep.
All right. So with that said, thank you so much, Margaret. I really missed you in person. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yes,
I'll be there tomorrow in Aventura. But if you guys need absolutely anything, Margaret, what is the best number where they can reach you at?
You can reach us here at the office at 954-519-3858, or you can always call me on my cell phone. And I can, like I said, if I don't answer the call, I could be in a closing, but I will get back to you.
All right.
And most of you have my cell phone number. My cell phone number is 786-753-2077.
All right. Well, beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for joining. Leo, welcome back. Carlos, nice to see you. Wilder, Ricardo, you guys have a good day.
Thanks, you too. Take care.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Andre. Bye.